Hello everyone, welcome back. I wanted to bring you along. I'm starting another new project, something I told myself that I wasn't going to do until I completed a bunch of things I already have going on, but nonetheless, I wanted to work on my Initially You 2022 project. I am so caught up in stitching right now. I'm doing Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, which I'm absolutely loving. And I thought this would be a good way, because I'm so interested right now in just sewing. I've fallen back into that I thought that I could incorporate my journal making into that as well. Nothing new, but so anyway, S for Sheila right now is going to be stitching or sewing. And I decided I am going to use Tracie Fox new kit. I love it. And it is Compendium MK2. And I'm sort of using the colors in it. That's a couple of her label. I bought that at the same time. But I'm using some of these colors or this kit as my inspiration. This is what I'm going to use inside of this journal. But I sort of fallen into something new. I've discovered, well, not discovered, but I've revisited something that I just want to do, and it's crazy quilting. So I thought, I've been watching some videos on crazy quilting for beginners, and I found a wonderful tutorial. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a block. I'm going to use it to cover my journal in. And that's how it led me to this. So here's the S for Sheila. It's going to be stitching and sewing. My middle initial is D. So once I get my initial base block done, the D will be in details that I add to it. In the journal, there's going to be dangles. I've made a whole list of things that I could incorporate with my initials. So today is about the base for this, just in case anyone is interested. You can start, from what I've been watching, you can start with just a rectangle shape, or you can freestyle your first shape. I freestyled, and ironically enough, it symbolizes or looks like a tag. So that is going to be my center. That's going to be my starting point. You do need an iron for this, and they tell you press every piece that you lay down, and you'll see why. Now, I'm not going to film this whole process. I just want to get started, so if anybody is interested. After you choose your centerpiece or your starting point, then you need to add a contrasting fabric. So I have this silk. It's from a skirt that I bought at a secondhand store that I've cut apart, and I just really love it. Has some I hope the camera's picking it up, sort of a blue with a sort of a brown running through it. I don't know what you would call it, but it's just a beautiful piece of silk. So I'm going to use it, and what you do is you line up your edge, you fold it over to make sure it's going to cover this edge. I don't know if I explained that well enough. You'll see. And I'm going to pin mine before I sew it. Now you can do this if you don't have a sewing machine. You can do the sewing by hand. It's going to take a while longer, but I've chosen to use my sewing machine to get my base down. Everything else is going to be embroidery and embellishments and that type of thing that I will do by hand. But doing this part, I'm choosing to use my sewing machine. So I'm just going to stitch this really quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've stitched that just from the start to the end of this piece of fabric. I'm going to take my pins out. You open this up, and once again you press. I don't know how this iron's going to be on this silk, but then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut this fabric even with this, or as even as you can be. That's good enough. I'm going to turn this, I'm just going to work around. Then you would pick another fabric to sew along here. And I think, well, it doesn't matter. I've chosen fabrics over here. I think I'm going to use, this is like a curtain that I bought at a second-hand store just for this purpose. That's too short that way. You can cut strips of fabric, which I have, and it doesn't matter how wide or how long they are. But I've done some strips over here of fabrics that I wanted to use in this. I'm just going to cut this piece off because I know that's not going on there. This, as you can see, is very stringy. I don't know what this is exactly, what type of fabric it is. I'm not good at that. I know basic fabrics. I'm not sure what that is. Stringy fabric is what I'm going to call it. So I want to add this, a piece of this, to my edge here. So I'm just going to put it press it. This is very stringy, but I think it'll be pretty once it's down. I'm going to make sure you fold it up to make sure once you sew that it's going to continue your seam. So I'm going to bring this a little bit this way because I can always cut that off. I'm just going to once again line it up. And I want to show you this because there's certain points where we get to these odd shapes that will explain how you get beyond those. So I'm going to stitch this down. Okay, I'm just going to take my pins out again. These strings. This fabric is so stringy. Turn this around so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to fold this fabric up and press it. Pressing the seam there. I'm going to cut this even. Doesn't really matter at this point, but and I'm going to cut this even. And I'm going to go to this corner. And I think I'm going to add, I chose this fabric. I know this looks sort of funky, but I chose this fabric to sort of go along with the papers I'm using. And I think I want to, I don't think I want this, I don't want that, not that. Got a little bit carried away there, so I'm going to cut my block a little bit smaller. Probably cut it too small now, but too late now. And I always have a hard time. I think that is the outside. This green fabric has got strings everywhere. Alright, so what did I decide? I don't think it really matters. I'm going to say that's my So I'm, once again, same routine. Let me get this to the end here. You can make your pieces as wide or as narrow as you want. It's a crazy quilt. All right, so I'm going to sew that back. Press my fabrics. I'm going to cut this end straight. Sewed it a little bit far, but that's okay because I can sew right over that edge. And then I'm going to cut, see how this, I'm going to cut from here, I'm going to cut that fabric that way so I have a straight line to work off of. So then I would go to this corner, once again adding another piece of fabric. I think I'm going to use, this is another horrible piece of fabric because it, this was a blouse. It's sort of a velvet synthetic of some sort. I don't know the official name for it, but it was a really large size, and I bought it at a second-hand store just for this project because I thought, oh, I can cut that up and use that fabric in here, and I liked the idea of having some velvet effect, I guess. I'm just gonna cut a strip. And then I think I will line up this crooked edge. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to just straighten my edge there. Alright, so once again, you line up, you fold up because you're constantly seeing and making sure you have enough fabric here that when you press it up, you know, if you go too short, see this fabric gets this stuff all over here. But I'm going to continue on, and that's all you do. I'm going to do a couple more of these. I'm going to go around. If I get to an odd area, I'll bring you back, but I don't want to bore you with this. But it's basically making your straight edge, adding your fabric, making that straight edge for your next piece of fabric. I'll be back. Okay, I am back. I just continued that process all the way around, piece by piece. It may not look like much right now. I think it's beautiful. Just because I can see what else is going to be added to this. Now, before I do any of my embellishment to this particular piece, I am going to cut it. And it's going to be hard to cut. This fabric was really a pain in my rear end to work with up here, but I want to decide how to cut this so that I can get my front and back to my journal and a spine. And before I do that, I sort of want to decide which direction I want the fabric. I have my journal I've been working in, and how I plan to do that. First of all, I just want to make sure I have enough fabric at the top. You know, I know it's going to be roughly, depending on the size journal cover I make, what the front would look like if I use that piece for the back, if I turn it this way, what would it look like? It's sort of like that too. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to determine what do I, ooh, I like that. See, I like that. And I have Tracie's kit in my mind at the same time that I'm making this decision. I sort of like this on the front, and then that would give me the back there. I have plenty on the bottom here that I can use to make my spine. So I think I made my decision. I think I'm going to cut my fabric in half, and you know, once I establish how the dimensions of my journal I'm going to make, I will then, this definitely will be cut in half, but I will determine how long I want this, so the salvage then, the bottom part, will then become the spine. So, alright, I just want to show you a couple of things. Now, the thing that I've learned about crazy quilts is you can just go over the top in embellishing. I plan to use some embroidery. I don't know, but I might use like some gold trims in different spots. And I know this is so out of character for me because I'm not a blingy person, but this is from, I'm just fascinated by this because it was really, it began in the 1800s, in the Victorian ages, and I've been watching a lot of YouTube channels now that have shown crazy quilts, some that have old antique crazy quilts that they've been sharing, and it's just incredible to see the art that's put into it. So that's been my new fascination with this. But you can see you can use all different kinds of, I don't know if I have anything else over here. Here we go. Vintage laces, embroidery. I plan to probably have some buttons on there, maybe some yo-yos. I don't know. But this is going to be my base for the first part of my journal cover. So I will be back to show you my progress and continue on with my Initially You 2022 project. See you soon. Happy crafting. Bye-bye. Hello again. Well, I wanted to follow up and let you see how far I have gotten. One word of caution for anyone that may decide to do this: establish your work area for your covers, even your spine. If you are going to be doing beading, I think stitching will be fine. But as I didn't do that, and then I started doing work, I had a piece of lace up here. I had stitched this down. But when I was working on my beading, and as I was coming down, I was like, oh, I might have to cut that fabric. And if I cut that fabric and it cuts the thread that the beading is on, that's going to create an issue. So that's why you see what I've done here with, I just did a basting stitch. I established where this was going to go on the book cover. I did a basting stitch so I know this is my work area, and when I get close to these edges, you know, whether it's beading or whatever, take added precaution. But I thought I would share that. I also established where my spine and the back cover. And I keep calling this the front and the back. I don't know. I'm going to wait and see once I stitch and bead and do all of that to both of these. decide which one I want for the front, which one I want for the back. But anyway, I wanted to share that little bit of information with you. You might have already figured it out. I'm a slow learner. I'm just glad that I caught it before I went too low with the beading, because then I would have had to probably redo all of the beads, because I wouldn't want to take the chance of, you know, this fabric having to be cut and that loosening the thread for the beads. So anyway, I will be back soon. I'm going to continue to work on Initially You 2022 and this journal. I'm going to start the inside of the journal as well. I did establish it's going to be 8.5 by 5.5. Right now I'm thinking a 1.5 inch spine with either 2 or 3 signatures in it. So I'm excited about this project. I'm very excited to work with the kit, and I really do love this for a cover. So I will be back soon. Happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.